Hey everyone! Thanks for joining. My name is Stephanie Wong, customer engineer here at Google, and we have here, of course, you know,
Jonathan Cham.
And welcome to GCP Online Meetup number 38.
38,
yes!
yes.
Woo! So we're super excited today because we have Addison Howard over here from Kaggle, and he is a program manager, so he's going to be talking about everything he knows about Kaggle, the community involved in it, and machine learning as well. So I'm going to let him take it away and introduce himself.
Yes, Addison, are you alive?
Hello. I am alive.
Yes, alive and well.
Live from Denver, Colorado. So glad to be a part of this. I'm really excited. Like I said, my name's Addison Howard. I'm a program manager on Kaggle. Kaggle's been a part of Google now for about 6 months. We are the home for data science, and super pumped to be a part of this.
Yeah, thanks, Addison. So, I mean, I don't know, Stephanie, when the topic came up, will they take our jobs? I was a little concerned because, I don't know, do you think our jobs will be lost?
I don't know. I feel like I'd be pretty okay with having half my job be covered by automated service. I mean, I could put my feet up.
That's true.
Work part-time.
Yeah, part-time sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good. But I think, I mean, in all seriousness, I think the topic of, automation and labor and the economy and AI and ML, like how all these things fit together and the impact of it is a serious concern. And I mean, even politicians are talking about it right now. So I thought it was a good topic to bring up. And I know Addison, he's been dealing with a lot of, competitions, a lot of work with large companies and small companies around, predictions, automations. And I'm guessing if anybody knows the answer to this, Addison probably has at least the best idea about what he sees, in the future.
Yeah, well, we'll see, because I would say the answer to the question of will machine learning take your job is kind of a big fat maybe. I mean, when it comes to the future of work, though, almost 1 in every 2 jobs do have a high risk of being automated by machines. Now, when you say that, right, I always think like Terminator or something like that. But no, it's things that can be automated and repeated over and over again. But on the flip side, machines cannot do things that require a novel approach or are based on something that they haven't seen many, many times before. So when you think about it, I always kind of find it fascinating that the term data science itself didn't even exist until like 2008. So it was, gosh, I was a junior in college at the time, and data science finally came around as a term. And it's really accelerated in the past few years, but you've already seen it in some common things in the world, right? So think about mail, snail mail. Back in the day, somebody's job was to look at every single letter and say, well, I think that's a 1, I think that's a 7, and divide it up. Well, now they have machine learning algorithms that will scan handwritten numbers and sort them. So that's an example of something. But now you take that to a newer extent, and you're seeing machines that can read retina scans of eyes. And while one ophthalmologist may look at a scan of an eye, maybe 50,000 scans over the course of their career, we are now training machines to be able to do the same thing in a matter of hours. And so overall, I will say it kind of depends. But ultimately, always be reminded that machines cannot do things that require a novel approach or are based on something that they haven't really seen many times before.
Yeah, maybe the different way to look at it is that machines aren't necessarily replacing your jobs. I mean, they might be replacing portions of your job, but it might be actually saving you time so that you can be doing more interesting work instead of manual.
Exactly.
Repetitive
exactly. In the example of medicine, right? We're now freeing up the time that many ophthalmologists have from looking at scans over and over again to now being able to do more research and do more groundbreaking things in the world.
Yeah. So I see with my customers that, I mean, that's exactly right. Like taking over like the entire job or entire role is pretty rare. It's more about helping workers be more productive. So, I mean, we still need mailmen, but instead of looking at numbers and trying to figure out what zip code it is, they're, actually putting mail inside of your mailbox, right?
Right. Or they're looking at other ways to be more efficient with their shipping and routes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Cool. So that's, I mean, I guess that's the net of the answer. I'd love to hear from the audience, what your thoughts are on, have you seen an impact yourself? What are your thoughts are in terms of, the impact on the economy? I'd love to hear what you guys think. But I mean, yeah, Addison, I know you had a couple other things you wanted to go through in terms of like how, I mean, what does Kaggle do and how has it impacted at the industry as a whole? Because I feel like it has.
Sure. So Kaggle Kaggle is known as the home of data science. Kind of the fun fact is the term Kaggle is literally just a amalgamation of sounds that didn't have a domain name taken yet, and that's how Kaggle came to be. There's some fun internal team folklore around what the other alternatives would have been, but it's basically become the home of data science. Originally, we kind of came in the market about 6 or 7 years ago, running machine learning competitions, where our CEO, Anthony Goldblum, wanted to predict the results of Eurovision. So if you're familiar with Eurovision, kind of the big American Idol style competition where every country in Europe submits or sends a representative, and there's sort of some like alliances and things like that occur. Well, they wanted to host a competition to do that. And that quickly expanded to people coming to Kaggle to learn how to do data science. Again, data science hasn't been around for really much more than a decade. And a lot of people who are currently in the usually the engineering community, maybe computer science community, maybe mathematical community, are wanting to get involved in this. And there isn't a whole lot of research out there, or there wasn't at the time. And like many of us can likely relate to, one of the best ways to learn is to go figure it out and try it out. And so through competitions, what ended up happening is for people interested in data science on the community side, people will come and have a really unique problem they can then go test their knowledge on. I'm trying to predict X. I'm trying to guess Y. We'll go through a couple of those here in a bit. On the business side of the house, what we're seeing is a lot of companies, they don't have a big data science group yet. Maybe they have 1 or 2 folks, maybe they don't have some. Maybe they do have a couple dozen people who are data scientists, and they're saying, we've been trying to solve a couple problems, but we need some additional help. We need to then throw it over to a community. And Kaggle now has, we think we just surpassed our 1.3 million people in our community who have come to Kaggle saying, we want to do more, we want to learn more.
Wow.
And since competitions, we've now started adding in things like data sets and kernels. Data sets being, you always hear about 80% of the work is just cleaning up and munging data together. This now provides a wide variety of data for people to look at and play around with and analyze. And then kernels, which we can get to later as well, is a bit of a code sharing platform.
Yeah, I think one of the daunting things about it is trying to do something by yourself, especially when it comes to data science, if you have little to no experience. So just having that community forum and people to validate your creations with is something that, we haven't really seen in the industry past, like you said, a decade before, even just the past few years.
Mm-hmm. So outside of the obvious reason why a company or organization would use Kaggle, an obvious reason would be like, hey, I want to hedge my bet on, instead of hiring a bunch of ML data scientists, I want to see if this is even plausible or feasible. Let me put out an award, like $10,000, see what the results look like. I mean, I feel like that's the main reason why people use Kaggle. Are there any other reasons outside of that Kaggle would be useful for an organization?
Yeah, so I think two come to mind. One is, I'd say, fresh perspective. So for example, one competition that we're currently running is Zillow. Is Zillow competition. If you're familiar with Zillow, they have the Zestimate. And some people have kind of maybe complained saying, oh, well, that's not how much my house is worth. And Zillow's saying,
definitely wrong for my house. It's way too low. Way too low.
And Zillow's saying, they're like, yeah, we know, we get it, right? We understand it's not always correct, and we want to do better. And so they have a team of data scientists that have been working on this algorithm and working on it. And there's some things that are more technical around like overfitting or tweaking the same thing until the point where it doesn't become very useful anymore. They said, we have a big team. Let's get some fresh eyes on this and see, is there more meat left on the bone to get some value out of what this algorithm we're creating? And so I think that's one common area. And a second area is novel approaches. For those who are familiar with machine learning, there's sort of been different trends across the industry around what techniques are useful. So one, a big popular one in the beginning is called random forest. Mm-hmm. But there's other ones that come up throughout the years that Kaggle's kind of been the place where those have been elevated. Mm-hmm. And so like one of the really big common ones now is called XGBoost.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. I don't know what it is, but I hear it everywhere.
Exactly. Well, and that's something that has really kind of come to the forefront as being something that's useful through Kaggle, because like you mentioned, it's such a big community. Instead of it just being somebody holding on to their methodology, they'll still win the competition, but then they'll say, hey guys, here's what I did. Data scientists, here's my methodology. I tried this new technique. Why don't you guys play around with it and see what you can do with it as well?
What has the community generally looked at from what you've seen in terms of how teams are formed and the people that are really interested in getting involved in contests? Are they students, other professionals?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of both. One cool thing that we've recently released is actually a university style platform, like University Method, where a lot of teachers are saying we could really teach data science well in our classroom with a competition type format. And so we have something called in class that is pretty much just for students to have that type of that learning ground. But on the same side, it's really a wide variety of people from all types of backgrounds that come to be part of Kaggle. And so what we see is as competitions start, we have discussion forums are very, very prevalent for us. And people start flooding them with, hey, I found these 3 articles that might be helpful. Hey, this is my professional educational background. Anybody want to be on my team? And we'll literally see people saying, sure, message me. I'm in Germany. I'm in Bangladesh. I'm in Hawaii. Let's create a team together. And it's cool to see just people who've never met each other in person. And sometimes as they will win the competition, I'll introduce them to one of these clients. They're meeting for the first time via video call because they're just saying, hey, I'm here to learn and I want to be able to learn from anybody, no matter where they are, skill-wise or geographically.
Yeah, I know some companies using it as a recruiting platform, actually. So
yeah.
It's
actually pretty neat. A lot of the big players I say big players because a couple of them, they were pre-acquisition, and maybe there might be some brands that would be rivals to us. But no, so you can look at our website, you can see Walmarts and Facebooks in all states have come to us on a very, very regular basis saying, this is a great way for us to have a almost like an accelerated job interview. You know, instead of putting them in a room, making them do a quick hackathon, let's give them 3 months to go figure out what they can go do and give them a problem similar to what they would do on a regular basis that can attract people who are interested and give them a day in the life.
Cool. I actually have a question from online. Do you know how community engagement is encouraged? I mean, besides just organically how people, comment and want to be involved in a project, but are there other interesting ways that you've tried to encourage different community topics to be discussed or people to start voting on different solutions that people
Yeah, so I will say a majority of it is organic. And there's actually, I guess for some people, they're incentivized by, we actually have rankings. So we have rankings today. How good of a competitor are you? How good of a kernel author, code sharing person are you? And how good of a discussion person are you? And you can get different rates based off of expert, master, grandmaster. We have occasional private competitions just for our masters and grandmasters. And I think a lot of it is that people just genuinely come to learn, and people genuinely come to, hey, I can share, if I share my knowledge here, then somebody else can maybe glean off that and expand upon it. And so we've occasionally actually offered some prizes for best kernels, best new data sets to continue that engagement. But I've been very surprised and very pleased at really how organic that has been as it is.
You were telling us earlier about the Twitter conversations that you have right now about machine learning.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit, because I think
that's been pretty neat. And we do have a full team of ours at Kaggle is just a community team that's looking for ways to continue to get people involved, both inside competitions, which again, what we kind of have been known for historically, but now as we've expanded to become truly a broader home for data science. And so the past 3 weeks, we have one coming up next week. I'm actually not sure how many more we have after that going into the holidays, but we've been hosting debates on Twitter that have been posing a certain problem or question within data science and saying, let's talk about this. And so the very first one we had was with actually a guy that used to be a Kaggle Grandmaster discussion expert. And then he came over, we basically poached him from our own community and brought him on board, and he was answering the question, okay, AI, what's the hype? Where's it overhyped? Where's it underhyped? What can it really accomplish? Last week, we had one with another one of our community members talking about biased machine learning. One example here for those not familiar with that would be, if I were to create an algorithm that's trying to take pictures of stock photo pictures of people in professions and say, okay, is this a doctor or a lawyer? But if every picture of a doctor that I bring in there is of an old white guy, then all of a sudden algorithms only think that doctors are all old white guys. Right. And so there's a lot of questions around bias that's been recurring. And one that just happened last night with one of our community leads was, which is more important, the algorithm or the data? Is having a good algorithm but bad data, or vice versa, going to get you better or worse results? And kind of talking through that. So we've been hosting those every Tuesday. You can follow the hashtag ML debate, I believe is what it is. we check out our Twitter account, see that as well.
Cool. Yeah, I've actually, I forgot what podcast, but I was listening to something about how sometimes ML can perpetuate negative stereotypes because of the right. And sometimes it's very controversial. So it's just really interesting how kind of
and kind of elaborate on that. What's interesting about those problems is sometimes you just don't have the capability to get all the data that you want. Especially when you're starting working with with humans, it's hard to get a very true representative sample. So we need to often be conscious that machine learning isn't always designed to be the perfect solution, but maybe creating an algorithm is to go from step 0 to 8, and then maybe take the rest of it, getting it from 8 to 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we do have a question from the chat. Can you cover how someone with no ML experience could use Kaggle? I'll answer that from my perspective, and Addison, maybe I'll let you answer. Sure. Maybe Stephanie. But so I actually had no ML experience when Google acquired Kaggle. So I went to Kaggle. First of all, what is Kaggle? And then I noticed that, okay, it's a bunch of competitions of something. And then, but then I got really interested in, like, basically there's a problem statement and you have to solve it, right? So what I did was I went into these competitions. I started looking at all these things called kernels, which are kind of like open notebooks that people write in to develop some kind of algorithm or software to help basically take the data set that's provided by the customer and do some, manipulation, modeling, and training on it. And the ability to look through basically hundreds of people's notebooks and look at how they, take a perspective on the problem. That's how I learned about ML. I'm definitely not the expert still, but it was just a wealth of knowledge sitting in all these, Jupyter notebooks. So maybe I'll have, I don't know, Stephanie, and then I'll let Addison answer that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think I'm also getting started with learning much more about machine learning and how to leverage a lot of the tools that people are using. And being able to see and learn from example is key, as you said, because it's just difficult to start with nothing. And I don't even know where to get started sometimes. A lot of it can go over your head. So having those example data sets and what people have thought of out of the box is just incredibly helpful. And I'm sure Addison will agree with that as well.
And just one more note, like the top rated kernels usually have very, very, very good documentation, meaning that the person took the time to write out exactly what that person did and why. And so, I mean, just reading all of that is a good learning experience as well. And there's a lot of comments, a lot of community engagements, which is why, I mean, I think Kaggle is a great place to learn ML. So if you don't know ML, actually Kaggle is the place to go. And if you're awesome at ML, it's also the place to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you said it well, is that I think it provides a lot of opportunities based on whatever level you're at. I will say, I guess, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate against myself, if you're coming in and so like I don't have a computer developer background at all. I've been more of a business guy, and so I have experience in math, econ, that sort of side of the house. So I'm starting right now. I'm teaching myself Python. So I'm getting down to that level. But a lot of times you may say, okay, I have this technical skills, I have nowhere to apply it or test it. We have a couple of different introductory competitions as one way of doing that. For example, one of the most popular competition we've ever held is one on the Titanic, where we said, basically, is this person going to survive or not? And you give them a whole list. And so you can think just on an intuitive level, or what if you just said, men don't survive, women and children do? You're probably going to get 80% right. But then we start toggling things like, okay, what if they were wealthy? What if they weren't? What if they're on the top part of the ship? What if they weren't? And it sort of gives you opportunity to play around with that in a very free, low ego, low risk environment, right? And we start having some more advanced things. That, okay, can you predict housing prices in a non-Zillow sort of way? Can you, if you want to get more into image recognition, we have competitions for that are introductory. So that's one, I think, the best ways. As Jonathan mentioned, kernels, I think is great as well. Kernels for us, it's not just code sharing, but what we would like to do is take out a lot of the dependencies. So if someone were to share you their code or otherwise, it may be, okay, go download all 16 of these different libraries and versions and things like that. And we try to remove a lot of that to keep sharing pretty easy. And then thirdly, we're continuing to develop out more tried and true educational curriculum. So we have a team that is entirely rooted in creating education-based documentation that we hope to be releasing here soon.
That's really cool. So I know we have about 10 minutes left, and we'll leave some room for Q&A. Do you mind just taking a couple minutes to walk through the user interface? I mean, I feel like a lot of people who have never looked or used Kaggle, maybe you can show them where the kernels are, where the competitions are.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Go back to where it was. shares.
Yeah, so while you do that, I mean, Stephanie, how have you used Kaggle so far?
So I actually use it to try and find public data sets that people have already offered or that were already natively on the site, just so that I can have some sort of way of testing out my own creations. And I actually used it on a workshop as well, just to see what we have available online. So I've already found it pretty useful, and I get email notifications of different contests that are being offered by other commercial companies that are offering contests and prizes. So I do often see some really interesting use cases. For example, the Zillow one, there's one for holiday gift exchanging and how you can predict how someone could get the right gift that they've wanted. So
you never get the right one.
Yeah, some of them are fun.
So
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's been really great for us now being a part of the Google team for, like I said, I think it's been close to about 9 months now, actually. We had the chance to have a little bit more fun with competitions and provide some more unique items there as well. But logging into Kaggle, if you've already logged in, this is the page you'll see. Actually, let me see here. I think I have the other one pulled up as well. So if you're not logged in, are you seeing this new page? Or, okay, you get more of this. What is Kaggle? And you get things like, hey, I'm maybe doing a job, or some very high level elements about, okay, how can I learn to do data science, and talking about exactly the same things we were just mentioning, surviving the Titanic. They want to study some benchmark models that already exist. We have plenty of blogs as well. So we interview previous winners. So for example, this data science bowl was around heart disease, and we interviewed winners and said, what did you do to win? We can kind of talk through that. And so there's a wide variety of ways, things here that you can see. All these, like you mentioned, playing with data. You'll see that before you log in. But once you log in, you sort of have a dashboard. And this is going to be just like a standard news feed based off of things you responded to and what you're a part of. And then up here is where pretty much people spend most of their time in these five, primarily these three. Competitions, like I mentioned before, we'll have a list of all the active competitions that we have by prize. So we have one for passenger screening algorithm. This is with TSA and the Department of Homeland Security.
Wow.
You remember, you're talking about going to the airport and putting your hands up and spinning around on the machine. Well, we took 3D images, or not we, DHS did, took 3D images of users and basically strapped different objects to their body and said, all right, is there an item on this person's lower right thigh? Yes or no? And what is the likelihood that there is? Yes or no? And so there's a wide variety of competitions that can really be interesting, entirely dependent on what your interest is, both off of skill set. Are you interested more in image-based data, 3D imaging, text, audio, tabular data, industry? So you can see here we have things like security, real estate. This is Mercari is, I know, expanding a lot in the US right now. They're kind of like an OfferUp or a Craigslist style app. We have one that's image-based, that's literally satellites from space saying, is this a picture of a ship or an iceberg? So that way, as ships are planning their navigation routes, they can try to better plan how to get to certain locations. Really a whole slew of different things. Recruit is a Japanese company that is similar to in the US that we have like a Groupon as well as an Open Table, kind of both of those. And they're saying, well, what's the likelihood that someone's going to go to a restaurant today or not?
Right.
And as you mentioned, we have a couple of fun ones. So we have this spooky author identification that said, based off of people's writing styles, can you guess who wrote it? Now, obviously, this is one that's a little bit more for fun.
Yeah.
You could just go Google those things, but
it's funny how people are putting money behind it, though. I mean, it seems like someone's funding this fun idea.
So this one actually we funded. We created this one as a playground competition. And so we don't have an exact quote winner on this one because you could just search it and put in all the actual answers.
Right.
But we have prizes of top upvoted awards for best kernels, best themes on tutorials, discussions. So there are other ways, like I mentioned earlier, they're trying to get people involved in that. And like you mentioned, we just launched a competition yesterday on, we've always called it the Santa Challenge. We have a Santa Challenge every year. It's more of a fun one. The one this year is a little bit less machine learning and it's more of an optimization type of challenge, but it's always a good time for us. As you mentioned, data sets is a pretty common way. We're actually seeing a lot more people come to Kaggle saying, oh, I know you guys are a data set platform. I never heard of your competitions, which is really cool for us as we grow. And it's both our team going out and finding, as you see here, we have over 6,000 data sets that, actually, let's see, what do you have here from most of those? Different, we have everything from credit card fraud detection, This is a pretty common one that a lot of people like to use, is a wide variety of clean data on movies. So the idea is that it not only provides you with clean data, it provides a community with the opportunity to kind of see what other people are doing, as well as it just gives you an area to play around with things you're interested in. I think I saw, here's one that's European soccer. I think there's one that's on Pokemon. There's one on wine ratings. There's Pokemon one right down there. So it gives people a chance to do some exploratory type data analysis on their own without any kind of or just more of an introductory way to kind of play around with stuff, because maybe you don't have the data to play around with it, or you're saying, hey, I don't have the Bureau of Labor Statistics information for Bulgaria for 1938 in an easily organized fashion. Oh wait, but Kaggle does, because somebody else is just as passionate about it as I am, and they uploaded it. There's a lot of cool opportunities there as well.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful, because traditionally you don't have that amount of available data sets for you to actually test your knowledge, improve your skill set, just sharpen your talent in those areas, and also just build off a community that's able to improve maybe what you did and you didn't think about it.
Right. Right. And we're starting to see a lot of companies too, because as you mentioned, we don't host competitions that have public data, because somebody can just go look it up and win the competition. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of people saying, we have data we want to just make public so people can go do things with it. A lot of companies that truly do see the value of publicly available data for broader analysis. And we're getting a lot of that being brought in to our community as well. And I'll touch very briefly on kernels. I think we kind of mentioned this as well, but this is a big opportunity to share your own work. And so, as I mentioned, the biggest value that people see is sort of twofold. One, sharing, and two is not having to deal with downloading a wide variety of libraries and versions and languages and things like that. What's very common is what we call forking kernels. And so somebody might have a particular script or notebook that they want to that they have, but someone wants to use it for a different use case. So an example may be somebody has a McDonald's use case, and somebody else has and they did a Twitter sentiment analysis on McDonald's. And somebody else says, this is a great code that I want to use. I want to apply it to United Airlines. And they then go and then do that with United Airlines. They could then copy and paste, or rather we call it forking, and then basically just tweak that part of the code that they need to shift that new data. And you can see here, I mean, some of these have hundreds of comments that are people talking about it. This top one is recently exciting. It's been updated in the past 2 hours. Let's see if we can get this loaded here with the last few minutes we got. As you mentioned, Jonathan, it's very, very well documented. So you see things like people speaking in more of a common language, all different types of visualizations. Usually you can see some fun animation. Sometimes people will bring in there as well. So it gives people a chance to really learn and grow from whatever stage of development that you're currently in with machine learning.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, I think that's almost all the time we have. Is there any other questions from online?
No, I mean, yeah, there's some. I guess I kind of answered it on your behalf, but one of the questions was, it seems like Kaggle's primary purpose is to help businesses crowdsource solutions to a data science problem. Is that a big problem that businesses have now? And my response was, I mean, at least from a customer perspective, because I work with customers every day, hiring ML and data scientists is really hard, especially specifically for industry experts. Like, it's just not possible. We're probably taking all of them if possible. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. What is your response to that?
I think you said it well. I think what we're seeing is people will usually understand ML in one of three ways. Either I hear about this, I know I should do it, I have no idea where to get started. I hear about it and I know I need to, or rather, I guess the first one is, why should I be involved with ML? Second is, I know I need to be involved with ML, I just don't know how to get started. And two is, I know I need to be involved with it, I know how to get started, now let's go use Kaggle for it. And so I interact with people on all three of those different sides. I think for those of us who are maybe in that developer community, it's easy to think, what do you mean people don't get this? It's like, if you have no idea how many times I have to explain to my own parents what Kaggle is and they still don't know what it is, or machine learning to be at the least. So it is growing so rapidly that we don't think we have no idea where the saturation point really is even going to begin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Addison, thank you so much for your time. I guess for now we still have our jobs.
For now.
I thought I was going to get
For
out.
now.
Can't go home early today.
On episode 39, brought to you by
Yes.
machine learning generated hosts.
Don't say that, Addison.
No, this is the fun part of our job.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Anyway, well, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for chatting. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed this show. If you didn't, hit subscribe anyway. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.